Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final matchup for the day. We're gonna have FAE versus CCB today. My name is DTM, and commentating with me today is Joshua. Say hello, Joshua.
Hey, I'm Joshua. I'll be DTM's co-host, and I'm as excited as you are. Let's get this party started.
All right, yeah, I love the radio voice. This is gonna be an exciting match, and we should be getting started shortly. We're gonna have a big, scary Hydra in the Hunter slot here. Is this whose Hunter is this actually? I'm not familiar with them. That's CCB's Hunter. That is CCB's Hunter. So, do you know anything about CCB's Hunter, Joshua?
As far as I can tell, CCB is a real menace on the Hunter playing field. They looks like they got an S badge with Wax Artist, and they can also do Gamekeeper and Clerk. But we may also see them pull out an Opera or a Night Watch. They're just a bundle of cards, and they're just all over the place when it comes to Hunter.
Yeah, those are definitely some really interesting hunters we've heard. A clerk would be really cool. You don't see clerk very often nowadays. I think you mentioned what Night Watch, Gamekeeper, and Opera. Those are definitely more in line with what you see in the meta lately. All three of them are pretty good, especially on Chinatown here. Really, probably looking forward to seeing an Opera. Maybe, definitely, like if you want to play the Hunter, Opera is going to be the biggest opportunity. But we have seen a lot of specialty hunters, so maybe we'll get to see something more uncommon here.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm kind of curious if they're going to pull out Wax Artist because it is Chinatown. There are a few niche slates you can kite the hunter, but Wax Artist does seem to have a prominent charge over this map.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Wax Art is really strong on Chinatown. A lot of open spaces. He does kind of struggle a little bit at Hotel, but in other areas, really good. You don't want to get caught in the open against a Wax Artist. However, I don't know if he's as common as he has been in past metas. Definitely a little bit overshadowed by the meta hunters like Ivy and Opera. So we'll have to see, but a Wax Artist would definitely be really interesting here.
Yeah, I'd be very curious if they went the Wax Artist here. I'm not really seeing an Opera on Chinatown because there is a lot of spots where you can force her to walk and not dash. So I'm kind of curious on how they'll play this. I'm really tempted to see if they'll do a Night Watch or a Wax Artist on this map. I can't really see a Clerk or an Opera.
Yeah, no, Opera maybe struggles slightly. I think she still is probably really broken on this map, like usual. Really, I think like the only map that Opera really struggles on is like Lakeside. And bro, I was watching IVL recently, and Alex played Opera Lakeside anyway, and I think he did pretty good. So really, if you take the time to iron out the shadows, if you really memorize every single shadow on the map and your routes are down pat, you can play her wherever you want, and survivors are gonna struggle because I feel like with Opera, it's kind of like how good she is scale with how few dashes she misses. And if you don't miss a single dash in a match, you're gonna be putting so much pressure on the survivors. But it does come down to comfort. Now let's get into these bans here.
It looks like we're starting off strong with a mercenary and a first officer ban. Looks like they do not want those rescues happening. They want to weaken the rescues as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't see a Merc FO ban very often. I think hunters do prefer usually to go for supports or kiters. But I mean, banning two rescuers here, that feels like something maybe a camp heavy hunter would do, like an An maybe or a Bonbon. Never seen an Opera or an Ivy take that strategy. Maybe a Wax Artist who wants to capitalize on his camp. And we actually are still going to see a Wildling plus a Composer here, so they do end up getting their rescue in the end.
Yeah, definitely forced the Wilding pick here, but I'm curious to see what else these bands are going to have. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a strong camp hunter, like you said. I can't imagine them going someone like Opera with these bands.
Yeah, and we might be looking at a prisoner ban here, which is very extremely strange to me because they've already locked a decoder. It would be extremely uncommon for a survivor comp to actually bring two decoders because at that point, while you do get extra decoding out of it, you're also really running some risks with how fast your downs are going to be. So yeah, and it is going to be locked in. I really, after a composer lock, I think you should be targeting supports or stronger kiters. And there is going to be a psychologist, another support who can heal Wildling maybe and allow for another rescue. Just heal anywhere across the map. Very versatile character.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious on what the final bans are going to be and the final pick for survivors. On the survivor side, I'm thinking they may go with a cord or good, strong first kiter, or they might go for another support like cheerleader.
Yeah, Cheerleader and Cord are both really good characters, especially in the first round. Cheer does struggle slightly against Opera maybe, but against Ivy, against Wax Artist, she's really good. We are going to see the Priestess ban there, so it doesn't want to allow a Priestess who has a lot of strong portal spots on Chinatown. And it is going to be an Embalmer here, another one of those support characters who's well known for being the best draw survivor pretty much. Really good at guaranteeing draws here. So survivors with a composer with Cypher Rush and as well with the Embalmer might be looking to push for a draw here.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is composer, psychologist, and embalmer are three raw kiters besides composer's speed boost. So I'm really curious to see how they'll pull out this tie or win against this hunter. Because especially on Chinatown, Chinatown's not the most friendly against raw kiters. So I'm really curious to see what strategies they'll do in this game.
Yeah, definitely. They don't have any support really, so they're going to be depending mostly on just strong kiting from these survivors. Because of that, we might actually end up seeing some suicide builds. I think on the Embalmer or the Composer, I think it would be pretty good, although the Hunter can kind of chase all three of these besides the Wildling. So Hunter has a lot of options. It's probably going to come down to where they spawn. Most likely the Hunter does not want to chase Hotel. And now we are just waiting on this Hunter pick.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see. But there's the Wax Artist. I was thinking Wax Artist was going to be used on this map. The best case scenario is that they go for the Embalmer with a suicide build. They force him to get down early, sell, or he could do the chair. But right now, I'm thinking Embalmer would be the best first kite with a suicide build right now.
Yeah, most likely. The only issue is if Embalmer spawns a Hotel, that's not going to be very easy to chase, but probably it is going to be Composer spawning at Hotel because you really want the Composer to just decode, so put Composer at Hotel. Make sure that the Wax Artist is going to hesitate to chase there, maybe go for an Embalmer at an easier area, and let the Composer rush the ciphers. So, like you said, yeah, Wax Artist is really good on this map. Especially if he's not chasing at that hotel area, he can get really, really quick downs, and Wax Artist also is great at taking advantage of Warp here. And looking at these builds, we do end up seeing a suicide build on the Composer, though it looks like Embalmer is going to have borrow time here.
It looks like they're trying to force that Wax Artist to spawn right underneath the Wilding and right by the Embalmer. They're deciding on where they want to force this hunter to go and who they want him to chase. It looks like they're trying to force the Wax Artist to chase the Embalmer, but the Wax Artist spawns the top left, and Composer is most likely going to be the first kite.
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. So it does seem like the survivors actually want the Composer to get chased here. They put Composer in the most open area, the most easiest to chase area, besides Psychologist, I guess. Wax Artist could chase either of them, but most likely is going to be going for the Composer, because he probably wants to prevent that Cypher Rush, so it's going to be Composer chased here most likely. They do lose out on that Cypher Rush, but if Composer can use Broken Windows and Flywheel well, this might end up being a kite.
Yeah, I most definitely see the Composer being the first chase here. I can't picture that Psychologist being first chase. She is a 3-hit character and has to raw kite, but Wax Artist is probably going to be looking for the faster down on a 2-hit character with Composer.
Yeah, I think Psychologist definitely not really on this Wax Artist radar right now. So probably gonna be that Composer chase. Definitely looking forward to this. Maybe we could see some Wildling support if they feel confident and they want to let Composer kite a little bit longer. We'll have to see though. Looking forward to seeing what kind of route this Composer takes as we get into this match here.
Yeah, this match so far is looking more like a tie game with the Embalmer and the Wax Artist. They might decide to sell in the first chair and use Embalmer to get that guaranteed tie late game. But I'm really curious to see how this first chase will go.
Yeah, definitely. Getting into this match here, the first half of the first round, and it looks like we expected, Wax Artist is heading towards that Composer, who's immediately heading towards the other side of the map, and Composer might be getting some wax on himself here, but hopefully should be able to round this corner soon. He should be also taking a Broken Windows speed boost here as well, so Wax Artist might have some trouble here.
Yeah, he definitely is having some trouble with these long walls. The Composer knows that he's having difficulty with these walls. Looks like Composer is trying to run around these walls as long as he can to prevent that wax. Wax Artist is really annoying in open areas, but he does suffer against these long walls, cutting off his line of sight.
Yeah, now as Composer loses a little bit of distance here, he's going to be in the Wax Artist's range. He has to be a little bit careful about taking too much wax here. And unfortunately, Wax Artist does get him to 100 wax, which is not ideal. Really, Wax Artist wanted to get him to like 90 wax and then hit him. Unfortunately, he loses all of his wax. He might still be able to down him here, though, because Composer really doesn't have any tools to work with. Maybe if he can get a flywheel here, but unfortunately, he just gets caught out in the open and does not use his flywheel, so that's going to be a very fast down.
Yeah, that is a very fast down, and unfortunately, he did kite on the Wilding Cipher. Does look that he's got chaired really early here, but also the insolence was popped on the Hunter, so I'm curious to see how this insolence is going to handle the Hunter right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the extra hit on the board, too, this Wax Artist is almost at full presence. One more hit, he's going to be at full presence. This is rapidly turning into a very dangerous situation for the survivors. There's the full presence. Although Wildling does make the rescue uninjured, which is pretty okay. So now Composer is going to try his hardest. Unfortunately, not going to get very far here. Flywheels, but is going to be getting downed there at the pallet. Probably should not have used Flywheel there. Really had nowhere to go there. Maybe if he could have saved Flywheel for another rescue, but then again, they might just be planning on selling him. So, or going for a coffin here, potentially? No, it doesn't
Well,
look
he
like.
is on his second chair, so I'm not seeing the coffin, but I am surprised the survivors decided to sell that early or rescue that early. I mean, due to the circumstances of the kite being so short. The survivors not selling might have not been able to buy them enough time, and now with the Hunter being full presence, his game is more in the Hunter's side and of his favor.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, Composer really ran out of distance too fast. And once the hunter catches up to him, there's not really much he can do there. So, Wax Artist might actually be looking at using a warp here. It doesn't look like it's going to be a rescue, so Wax Artist is going to warp towards the Embalmer here. Can he actually find him? The Wildling Whistle is actually going to turn off his tinnitus, so he doesn't see the Embalmer there. Or it was a Psychologist, never mind.
Yeah, the best next case would be the Psychologist, considering she still has 3 hits and the other characters are 2 hits. But it looks like the only other one they're going to be forced to chase is probably the Embalmer. I don't see him chasing a Wildling here.
Yeah, maybe he could chase the Wildling with his Hot Wax, but it seems like that would be a little bit risky. And unfortunately, Embalmer gets off of his Cypher a little bit late here. He might be getting cut off pretty soon here. If Embalmer dies really quickly here, I think that's going to really solidify a 4-kill for this Hunter. So at this point, Embalmer needs to kite really long, hopefully using this hotel area. Oh, it might be Wax getting chased here. Yeah, and that's going to be the Hot Wax. Wildling goes down instantly with the Hot Wax, and he's on top of basement as well. This is a very dangerous situation for these survivors here.
Oh, surprisingly, he does not want to take that basement. He wants to share this Wilding as fast as possible and continue to chase this Embalmer. Embalmer giving tinnitus. The Hunter knows where he's at. He's about to wax, misses the wax, and he's going back trying to cycle off this Embalmer. I'm really curious to see how the survivors will play this out. Embalmer still has Coffin up, which means it could still be a really strong tie possibility. There are 2 ciphers, the Hot Wax, the double down, and Embalmer is down for the count. Embalmer does not Coffin. Embalmer staying at chair. Survivors are in a real tight spot right now.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. Wax is going to be slugging Embalmer here as Psychologist comes in. Unfortunately, they do not have any Cypher progress here. Without any Cypher progress, they really can't do anything here. Psychologist is going to come in, try to make a rescue here. Maybe if Wildling doesn't get farmed, he can get on his board and kite a little bit. Unfortunately, does get farmed. Wax is going to hit straight through that Psychologist. And Wildling is going to be sent back to the manor here, which means with 2 survivors left here, it doesn't seem like there's very much these survivors can do.
No, these survivors are in a real tight pickle. Honestly, if I was playing Survivor right now, I would think the best strategy probably would have been to sell that Composer and conserve resources. I think that saving that first kite was a little risky. They risked their resources, their time, and their decoding progress all in the same time. I think I probably would have sold the Composer and used the Coffin and the Psychologist's resources as maybe to force a tie in this game.
Yeah, potentially. Unfortunately, I think no matter what they did, they were at such a disadvantage with how quickly Embalmer ended up, or how quickly Composer ended up going down there. We did see some really nice usage of broken windows and the speed boost at first, but I think he ran out of distance too fast, and the place that he got caught didn't have any kiting resources at all. I think if Composer was able to transition to Hotel, he might have been able to kite longer, but unfortunately he wasn't able to do so.
Looks like this hunter is trying to mind game the best he can, but the psychologist is kiting as strong as she can. There's the down, and
Mm.
Bomber is going back and decoding. He sees the down, getting off a cipher. There goes the warp. The hunter knows exactly where the Embalmer is at, and he's about to close the distance on this poor Embalmer.
Yeah, Warp's right on top of the Cypher, and Embalmer kind of out of options here. No pallet to work with either. This is going to be a down on the Embalmer. Going to be going for the Hot Wax here to get rid of the attack recovery. And potentially looking to, no, looks like it is going to be a Slug then. I'm not sure, it looks like Embalmer actually doesn't have self-heal. So Embalmer decided not to use his Coffin despite not having self-heal. Now it's just Psychologist. Once Psychologist goes down here, it is going to be both survivors without self-heal, and this Wax Artist is going to be able to lock up his 4-man elimination.
Yeah, this is looking like a strong 4K right now for the hunter. This map was just not in the survivor's favor. A Wax Artist is pretty lethal on this map. There are just not a whole lot of routes, a whole lot of pallets, and everything you can use against him. He almost waxes everything off, and you pretty much get that 100 very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Composer can work sometimes, but unfortunately not a strong enough kiter to use against a Wax Artist. I think that's more of a pick against something like an Opera or an Ivy. Against a Wax Artist, it's not going to work, and they might have had more luck if they brought more support or some more self-sufficient kiters like an Acrobat or a Patient. And now that is going to be the Psychologist down, and it looks like that's going to be the 4-man elimination. We're just going to have to wait for these survivors to surrender.
Yeah, unfortunately, those survivors just did not have enough decoding progress, so it screwed them over in the end with those two ciphers locked and still remaining.
Yeah, and that's going to be it. So, congratulations to the Hunter for getting a 4-man elimination here. I believe it was CCB's Hunter, so congratulations to them. And now there's going to be a lot of pressure on FAE's Hunter here to strike back with a 4-kill of their own.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the enemy hunter is going to be. I do not have any information on the other hunters, so I'm really going to be in a surprise for this hunter match right here. Unfortunately, our survivors did get 4K, but it was a great play on both sides. And honestly, if I were them, I'd probably ban Wax Artist on Ever Sleeping, Lakeside, or any open map. He is just a nuisance.
Yeah, they could also potentially go for a map like I assume CCB had map pick. I actually have to check. It looks like, yeah, it was CCB's map pick, so maybe FAE could go for an arms or a church lock for the second round, so they don't have to worry about a Wax Artist most likely, and then they could ban maybe something like an opera singer. But for now, it is going to be FaZe Hunter here. The CCB survivors are going to be coming in, and now it looks like it's Zom23 hunting for FaZe.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this goes. This can still be anybody's game. Their hunter could also get a 4K, matching the points. This is anybody's game right now, so I'm really curious to see what they'll bring out. I'm looking at hunter stats right now, and it looks like they are kind of all over the place, but it does look like they do have a good strong Hell Ember, a strong Hermit, and a strong Wax Artist.
Yeah, definitely. I think a Hermit or a Halibur would be very, very interesting here. I think Hermit, most likely the best pick, is a high-risk, high-reward character that is capable of getting wins. As long as he can take advantage of survivors' mistakes. Usually Hermits do have slow early games, but they can really snowball in the late game. And then there's Hellember. I would also love to see a Hellember. Hellember would be cool.
Hell Ember for me is the epitome of skill. If you can play Hell Ember in tourney, I respect you. He's one of the most hardest hunters in my opinion with his bad chase ability. But due to that insolence buff, he may be seeing a play.
Yeah, Hellember did kind of get some buffs with the flame or whatever. He's still like really, really terrible, but like, if you do somehow get a fast down, the survivors are going to be in trouble. They are forced to double rescue, of course, and you can still get like a double hit on one of the rescuers with Hellember, or just an instant farm. So Hellember, we've seen Hellember gameplay before, I think. Maybe, and that would be really something interesting. Although I'm probably expecting a hermit here.
Yeah, I'm expecting a hermit as well. This game could be played any other way. I've seen some hermits bring insolence. I don't know if that's going to be the case for this one. Insolence hermit is still pretty strong. It makes up for his lack of early game chase. But I'm really, really curious to see who they'll play. I kind of think they're probably going to go a hunter that's anti-transition on this map.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely one of the strongest maps for transitional kiting. Like we saw with the wax artist at the start, Composer was leaping around those really big buildings, and it was giving him a hard time at least for a little bit. If you can get some strong support, maybe with some dancer boxes or with a weeping clown, you can make the transitioning that much stronger. So the hunters really have to watch out for that, and coordinated support can be really difficult to deal with for hunters.
Yeah, with Wax Artist, I feel like one of his counters is probably super strong support, but I'm really, really curious to see what will ban. Of course, we'll see the Priestess ban. Priestess is almost an auto ban on this map, and the Toy Merchant. They were thinking about the Toy Merchant and the transitional routes with the Catapult at Hotel.
Absolutely, yeah. Toy Merchant can be very strong. Usually not as big of an issue for the meta characters like Ivy and Opera. Ivy and Opera won't really worry about banning Toy Merchant here, so it does look like it is most likely going to be someone like a Hermit who does struggle with Toy Merchant. And there we can already see a coordinator who, like you said, very strong character in the first round with her gun. And it's also going to be a psychologist as well to give them some more support.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they'll do here. Now, as the meta changes, Coordinator's not used often as much as a rescuer. She typically runs a suicide build. She's what we like to call in the meta a sacrificial lamb. You want to sacrifice her as the first kite to buy as much time, use her resources, so her whole team can decode. So I'm really curious to see who they'll go here. They do ban the Merc.
Yeah, trying to get rid of that mercenary, maybe forcing an FO who struggles with transitioning, or maybe a wildling who can be weak to some certain hunters. We did just see with the wax artist, wax artist does counter wildling with the hot wax, so might be looking to counter wildling as well, but it is going to be an FO instead here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see who their last ban will be for this lineup. I'm thinking it could be a wax artist here, but I'm really not for sure because, oh, they do ban the patient. It could be an Ivy or an Opera. I'm really not for sure at this moment.
I don't know if Ivy or Opera, especially Ivy, wouldn't worry about Patient because she can scare Patient out of his hooks, which is really strong. And Opera as well doesn't mind the distance that much. And it is going to be an Embalmer here as well. So, but looking at this comp, they do have some support here with the Coordinator. And of course, they have the Embalmer as well. We saw last time Embalmer didn't quite work for securing the tie, because unfortunately the Coffin never ended up being used. And Composer went down really fast, but this comp is slightly less weak here. Coordinator definitely a much stronger kiter than Composer, so they might have better luck here using that coffin.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they'll do here. I'm really strong about thinking that they'll use the Coordinator as the sacrificial lamb, and they'll use the support from the Coffin and the FO rescue to help her in her kite. But I'm really thinking they're probably going to try to force that Coordinator to be first chase on that Hunter as much as they can.
Yeah, for sure. So we might see maybe coordinators spawn in a more open area the same way that Composer did. I'm probably going to see instead an Embalmer at Factory, which I believe is exactly what we saw in the first half. So probably something similar is what we're going to see here. And now as the Persona builds get locked here, we are going to be waiting on this Hunter lock. We could be seeing a Hermit or a Hellumber or maybe something completely different. So let's see what this Hunter decides to play here.
And there is the Hermit Hermit pick as we suspected. Hermit is actually, I'm wondering if he'll run Insolence on this match. Because you do have three characters that are going to be a real annoying first chase for him. But I'm really curious to see what build and what strategy he'll take towards this game.
Yeah, I mean, Hermit might struggle a little bit chasing Hotel. A lot of hunters do. So maybe he wants to go for the coordinator, who's a lucky guy without her gun, or maybe he wants to go for the lucky guy who takes 3 hits, which would be the psychologist. Definitely has some options, and one of those is going to be spawning in a more open area that's easier for the Hermit to chase here. Looking at the builds, we are going to see a Suicide build on the Embalmer, and then 3 Borrowed Times, and the Cord is going to have Flywheel here, so pretty standard builds, I think.
Yeah, really interesting to see a cord with Flywheel and Borrowed Time. I'm used to the Suicide build or the Kiting build most of the time, but I'm wondering where the Hunter will spawn. The Hunter spawns right on top of Embalmer and FO, so I'm really thinking he might force that Embalmer to be first chase here.
Yeah, definitely. Embalmer first chase would be very interesting. It's high risk, high reward. If you can down the Embalmer quickly, you're going to be in a really good spot, although you won't be pressuring the rescue very much because Embalmer can just use his own coffin. However, if Embalmer is able to kite you with that Suicide build in Hotel, it's going to be a really tricky spot for this Hunter, and even though it's a Hermit who has a lot of late game potential, you want to be careful about getting kited too long. So I think this is going to be really interesting first chase here. Hard to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, I assume the Embalmer is probably going to want to hold on to Hotel as much as they can. I'm assuming they might die at Hotel, and then they might what's the word? Move to another spot farther away from their coffin and use their coffin on second chair to buy as much time as they can.
Yeah, it can be very advantageous for the Embalmer to transition to a different area. If they can get a lot of distance from Hotel and then use the coffin to get all the way back there. Even for Hermit, who can make up distance with his eyes, can still get a lot of distance and can really extend a rebound here. So it's something we're gonna have to look out for as this match starts. Whoa. Very cool skin.
So it
Immediately.
does look like Embalmer is going to be first chase. Embalmer is running around those walls, taking stairs as soon as they can, but I hope they look where the Hunter's going so they don't run into it. Oh, Hermit's actually changing his mind. He does not want to chase an Embalmer with Coffin. So he's going, and it looks like he is heading in the Psychologist's direction.
Yeah, and it is interesting that the Hermit decided to immediately connect the ciphers. You do see sometimes Hermit don't like connecting ciphers just to make their first chase a little bit faster. But it might just be confidence on the Hermit's end. They don't think they're going to get kited too long by the Psychologist. She is going to take a broken window speed boost, but we'll see if he can get a stun here at this pallet or the window.
And there goes the first hit. Psychologist is already taken the first hit. We still have Blink or whatever abilities the Hunter is running. I'm curious to see how the Hunter will chase the Psychologist, what he'll do from here.
She doesn't actually go into the pallet, and Hermit ends up blinking. I'm not sure if he needed to blink there. He might have been able to get that without it. But either way, this is very fast for the Psychologist. Hermit might want to hold off on actually hitting her until the stress runs out. So this might extend her kite a little bit, but it looks like Psychologist is going to be going down soon.
Oh, and there's the stun and the first down. Ciphers are under 50% from what I see. We have one that's about to be completed, but Cypher progress is still very low.
Yeah, that was a really fast down from that Hermit. And with Cyphers this slow against a Hermit, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think this is already a dominant position for this Hunter.
Yeah, with the fast down and the lack of Cypher progress, we have the first officer giving Tinnitus. I'm wondering if they will go for an early rescue or if they'll decide to give Tinnitus and sell the Psychologist right here.
Yeah, it looks like it is going to be the rescue on the side of the FO. Did not go in too early. Looks like he is going to be making the rescue before half, which is good. It can be risky against a Hermit here. But now the question is if a Psychologist without any items can rebound. Most likely not, and it looks like she is going to be going down here.
Yeah, her chair didn't offer her a whole lot of resources to kite with besides those stairs, but Hermit didn't really bother going around and took the short route, so Psychologist was caught off really easily. That tie bought her a bit of time, but not much. I'm really thinking the survivors are going to sell her on the second half of the chair.
Yeah, they might want to consider selling to catch up on their ciphers, especially since if they rescue, they're going to be taking a lot of damage here. And you want to be careful about getting too injured against a Hermit, especially when your ciphers are slow. If you have to take the time to heal, that's going to eat up at your time to decode, and it's really just going to give Hermit a ton of momentum. However, Ford might be going for a rescue here.
They did not decide to sell, and now have 3 injured and 1 at full health. The resources being used and the health being used. I'm not for sure how these survivors are going to play or last against this one. The core does pop the gun, trying to buy Psychologist enough time to run up the stairs. Psychologist gets the distance, but I'm afraid I don't know if this will be enough against this Hermit.
Yeah, I mean, Hermit does have. However, if he misreads her route, this could be really bad for this Hermit. He needs to be able to find her, but it looks like he might have completely lost her. If Hermit doesn't find this Psychologist soon, this is going to be a really big problem. Yeah, unfortunately, he's still heading in the wrong direction. Now, might be seeing the FO here. However, does immediately get a stun on the FO. That's going to be a hit.
Yeah, even with that FO taking an early down, with the loss of Psychologists, they are turning around this Cypher progress. They only have 2 Cyphers left, and 3 of them are about to be 50% or more. So the survivors have really turned this around with the Hunter losing Psychologists here.
Yeah, no wanted order either. Maybe he could have seen them healing on top of the Cypher, but it's not going to be a teleport. It looks like this Hunter actually is thinking about committing to the FO. I think maybe it would be more advantageous to teleport to a Cypher, force them to rescue, and spread out a lot of damage, because right now, to make up for losing that Psychologist, you have to play extremely aggressively here. But
Oh,
this
he
might...
loses the cord, and the cord gets a free rescue right off the bat. He dodges the teleport and is able to kite away, getting distance on the Hermit. Using the watch, dodging the shock. I'm really curious how long this first officer can kite playing mind games against this Hermit right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe switching to coordinator would have been a little bit better there. But right now, just waiting for the watch to run out here, and these ciphers are almost done. They've got 3 ciphers nearly finished, so it looks like the ciphers are going to be popping soon here. And Psychologist is also going to share the damage with the FO, so he's not going to quite go down yet. Maybe gets him down with the eye, but these ciphers are just about finished.
Yeah, the ciphers are primed. We are going to be watching a detention hit. They pop the cipher so they don't have to worry about the health hits, and they're already on the gates. FO knows where dungeon is. He's probably going to force try a kite around the dungeon, but this Hermit is wanting the death on this FO. The detrimental Hermit time that he lost when he lost the Psychologist was detrimental to this game.
Yeah, the only risk here is if, okay, Embalmer is going to switch his charge, which means he isn't going to go down. All 3 survivors do stay up here, and they are rushing this gate. Unfortunately, no teleport from the Hermit. Maybe slugging the FO and teleporting might have gotten him a little bit of momentum there. He definitely had time. It looks like, however, the Hermit is okay with just sharing the FO. And unfortunately, that means the gate is going to be open, which means that is going to be a 3-man escape for these survivors. Massive lead for CCB here.
Yeah, it really showed you how survivors could turn a bad early game into a great late game. Hermit's early game was phenomenal. There was almost no mistakes, but as soon as he lost that Psychologist, his win almost went out the window with those survivors priming the cipher with him changing targets.
Yeah, I think maybe if he teleported after chairing the FO and maybe went for the Embalmer, I think he might have had a lot more momentum. Or if he just teleported a little bit earlier in that endgame, might have been able to do something and come out with a draw. But unfortunately, he losing the Psychologist just ended up losing him way too much momentum, and you don't want to have 4 survivors up at endgame. So that ended up really messing up the Hermit's late game. Well played to the survivors, though. Really great core support.
Yeah, and as you can see, that cord gun is very deadly. That coordinator gun bought so much time, and he lost the route. Those survivors just knew how to play that late game and get the win into their hands. What I was really curious about is even if he did teleport and got the Embalmer, then Embalmer still had Coffin up on the opposite gate, so he would have been in a pickle either way.
Yeah, for sure. That coffin is just so hard to deal with in the end game. That's why you really want the survivors to use the coffin before the ciphers pop. It just becomes a massive problem if they can set coffin up on dungeon or something like that. So when Embalmer has his coffin up and you've got 4 survivors to deal with, even if you're a hermit who can slow the gates down, it's still such a struggle. So yeah, unfortunately, really just misread the route on the Psychologist there, and it cost him pretty big time. But maybe Team FAE can make a comeback here in the second round. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they get a 4K or just whatnot, considering after that last game was pretty harsh on the 3 survivors escaping. The Hermit was just, they did so great early game, and I'm frustrated watching that they had a hard time late game because I know as a hunter that can be the most frustrating thing, have a great early game for it to just fizzle out.
Yeah, definitely. And now we are going to be looking at the map picks and bans here. CCB ban arms, which isn't surprising. They do want to go for a wax artist map. Hopefully, I think for FAE, picking church would be really smart here. Because that is the other map where wax really struggles. And if they pick church, they could effectively get 2 hunter bans instead of 1. But we'll have to see what they feel comfortable going here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what map they choose. I do hope for the survivors that they choose a map that has strong walls and strong raw kiting areas. These kites need to be as long as possible. This fast down meta is very detrimental to survivors, not giving survivors enough time to decode, rescue, heal, or anything. This fast down meta is causing things to be done very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to counteract that, hopefully if the survivors can get some strong support going, I think that would be really great for the survivors. Especially, I mean, whichever, and it looks like they're actually going to be picking Hospital here. So Hospital is one of the most survivor-sided maps in the game. They definitely did not pick that for their hunter. They really want to set their survivors up to succeed against this CCB hunter. It looks like CCB's hunter is going to be going first here, so we're going to have to wait and see what kind of support they can go for and how the survivors are, if they're going to be able to succeed on Hospital.
Yeah, Hospital is a very, very strong map for survivors. Almost every survivor main's favorite map. There's a ton of strong kiting areas. Hospital, even after its nerfs from a while back, is still one of the strong kiting areas. They have Shack that leads into ruins, and it's just a good area for survivors to kite with the amount of pallets, walls, and transitional routes that they could take on this map.
Yeah, definitely. The only potential issue here is that Wax Artist is definitely playable on this map. Struggles a little bit, but still, you will see Wax Artist come out sometimes. So it's probably going to have to be a respect ban for the Wax Artist, which opens the door for either an Opera or an Ivy, or maybe a Night Watch or something like that. So plenty of options for this CCB Hunter. Hopefully they can get something that counters at least a little bit of the support that we might see from Team Faye.
Yeah, Wax Artist is still very playable on this map. Ruins being one of the best areas to kite him, and Hospital, he almost doesn't do enough to deal with the survivors in Hospital. I'm really not seeing an Opera ban on Sacred. Those ruins do really mess her up if a survivor knows how to mind game her in the ruins.
Yeah, definitely. Opera is really difficult to play on this map. I think at a high level, everyone prefers Ivy on Sacred Heart instead of Opera. So we could see an Ivy maybe if CCB's Hunter feels comfortable with it. Looks like finally the team captain for Faye did get out of their match and are going to be joining the custom, which means the other survivors are going to be filling in here as well. And hopefully we can get these picks and bans started shortly.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what we'll see here. I'm almost thinking they could do a female dancer in middle for those slow boxes and detrimental slow on the Hunter while kiting inside the Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, you got like dancer support. You could get like maybe priestess support would be really good. You could go maybe like novelist can be very strong on this map, I think. Novelist in general pretty underrated. Maybe something like entomologist. There's so many options on Sacred Heart. A lot of really strong support characters that you could see. No wildling and no composer, unfortunately, but I think these survivors still have plenty of tools at their disposal.
I do think Secret Hospital, with the right team comp, can do really well if their support mains and support characters can pull out a win here. Support is very good on this map with the Ruins and Hospital being in the way of the Hunter.
Yeah, definitely. And now we are going to get started with these picks and bans. It's going to be Priestess and Mercenary here. Seer is open here, which could be relevant. If they go Seer and a bunch of strong characters, that could be a little bit intimidating for this Hunter here. However, no Mercenary and no Wildling either, which leaves the only like FO and Gravekeeper for rescue options. And for the ban, it looks like they're actually going to be banning Guard 26 here. Going for the Bonbon ban instead of the Wax Artist Respect ban. Really interesting that they chose to Respect ban Bonbon. Very unusual. Oh, no, they might be... Yeah, they do go for the Wax Artist.
Yeah, I was about to say Wax Artist is very, very detrimental on this map. Even though Hospital and Ruins, he does struggle a little bit. In Ruins, he's able to wall off a lot of those good infinite windows. And in Hospital, you do end up having to kite in the open to get there in the first place. So they are doing the respectable thing to do and banning that Wax Artist. They do not want to deal with that Wax Artist and his strong map pressure on this map.
And now looking at these locks here, it's going to be Gardner and Professor. A little bit unusual, especially with the Professor. Professor is has fallen off slightly just because his support isn't quite what it used to be, and he can be a slightly inconsistent kiter. And then there's Gardner, who is consistent with her bubble. So I mean, two solid kiters could be potentially maybe a little bit weak to some of this Hunter options, though. However, it is going to be an Embalmer ban. So not wanting to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they'll do here. We got Priestess, Mercenary, and Embalmer banned. We got a Professor, Gardenist, and a Journalist on a team. I'm kind of curious if we'll see an Ivy here. They go around and they do ban First Officer. So I'm really curious to see if we'll see an Ivy team comp here.
Yeah, so we're gonna see a Journalist lock here. That's the other option for rescuers that's not named Gravekeeper or FO actually. And FO is banned now. Again, this hunter really likes double banning roles. Like usually you don't see double rescues or double decoders. So banning FO after a Journalist lock is a little bit questionable, but it is gonna be a Lawyer instead here. Interesting from the Lawyer too. They're not gonna go for any heavy support. I think maybe they had better options as far as kiters go, like Acrobat or Patient. Maybe they just wanted to go for like a strong decoder that can also kite, but unfortunately, all of these characters are a little bit weak to both Opera and Ivy. So this hunter might have a field day here in terms of kiting targets.
Yeah, as far as team comp goes, I am a little confused. I'm hoping the best for these survivors, but they will be in a pickle with this team comp. Gardner and Professor, even though Professor can be played slightly as a support, these are some selfish team picks that I am seeing. Gardner and Professor really only worry about themselves when it comes to their team, so I'm really curious to see what we'll see here.
Yeah, for sure. Not much support here, so the survivors are going to be expected to kite really self-sufficiently, and that can work especially if we see some suicide builds. But besides that, I mean, like Gardner and Lawyer can struggle a little bit here if the hunter plays smart. So we're gonna have to see. Although Lawyer really good at looping some areas like Ruins and Hospital, and there it is. It's gonna be the Opera Singer lock here. Can struggle a little bit on this match, but it is still Opera Singer, who's easily top 2 in the game, so you can never counter out, and she doesn't do too badly against this team comp.
Yeah, this team comp is going to be in a real big pickle against Opera. Almost about any sort of distance they want to make on her, she will eat up in 2 seconds. I'm really curious to see how these survivors will play against this Opera. But right now, this Opera kind of has a chokehold on this match with the ability to fast down, chase, and cut off your transition routes.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is that Journalist is going to be a little bit inconsistent as a kiter. Usually you would see the FO lock instead of the Journalist. At least FO isn't really an option. But we see Journalist is going to be spawning Giant Statue, and that could actually be a really easy chase target for the Opera. Of course, she could also go for the Gardener, especially if she spawns Shack. Gardner is going to have a little bit of trouble rotating to a strong area and definitely going to be losing her bubble really quickly into the match. And it looks like Opera is going to be spawning next to the Gardner. So Gardner might have some trouble kiting here potentially.
Yeah, it definitely does look like Gardner's going to have some trouble. Her only transition route that she can take right now that'd be best for her is to go right inside that hospital as soon as possible. She did spawn in a really crappy area. Deadman is right under her. No one wants to kite there. There's only one good window that's not even that good. So, yeah, her only route right now is taking hospital, and that Opera Singer knows it very well. She's running that suicide build. So it does look like they plan to use Gardner as a first kiter and a sacrificial lamb in this match.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing Gardner does have going for here is that she does have that suicide build, so she can abuse those speed boosts to get into hospital and then use flywheel to extend her kite. Maybe along with taking 3 hits, she can do a long first kite here, especially if she gets into hospital. That's going to be her main route here going forward. She really doesn't have any other options, so we'll have to see. Unfortunately, if she does kite on Lawyer Cypher, the rotations might slow down Cyphers a little bit, but it'll be worth it if they can get a long kite out of it, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. I really hope the Gardner doesn't run into the lawyer and the opera singer decides to change targets because that could be real detrimental to this game. The Gardner is probably going to force her way into hospital, but it really depends on how fast this opera can dash straight to her.
Yeah, now we are going to be getting into the match. Opera is going to start working her way towards that Gardner. And it looks like Gardner is actually staying right near that dungeon area. And Opera doesn't actually notice. It looks like Opera might actually just be wanting to go for that lawyer, actually. Really smooth controls as well from this opera singer.
Yeah, the opera singer is closing up the distance. Opera singer is one of the best hunters that is known to eat up your distance. Any sort of distance, speed boost, or anything you get against her, she's able to nullify within 2 seconds. Her chase is just meta breaking right now. She's still a top pick right now, even in hospital, the most survivor based map.
Yeah, despite a little bit of a misstep with that shadow there, Opera might have been a bit unfamiliar with the shadows in Hospital. However, got that first hit really quickly and now is closing in the distance on Lawyer. Lawyer got some distance here, but unfortunately it's not going to be a lot against the Opera, especially if she jumps directly to him. Using the speed boost, however, did manage to make it to a pallet, gets mind gamed though, and Lawyer goes down very quickly here to this Opera singer.
Yeah, he went down very quickly, but he was able to buy around 60% decoding progress on all three ciphers. I'm really curious to see what they'll do here. Opera Singer does know somebody's on this cipher. She's pressuring, and I think she might force the early rescue here. Pops the shell and forces his ability. She decides she's just going to waste his ability and not deal with him.
Yeah, now Journalist is going to make the rescue here, does take a hit, trying to, unfortunately, miscommunication there. The pallet gets slammed, which ruins her photo, and she ends up getting hit, so a double down here is not at all what the survivors wanted here. I mean, Lawyer would have to do a really long rebound here to make this worth it, considering the double down. That's really tough.
Oh, it does look like Opera might be misreading the route. Doesn't look like she exactly knows where Lawyer is, buying enough distance for the Lawyer to continue to kite. She sees the blood trails, she's closing the distance, and if Lawyer doesn't get to a pallet soon, I think we might be seeing another down here.
Yeah, I was luckily able to find the Lawyer's blood trails. Now Lawyer is going to be using that. It looks like it was another speed boost here. Unfortunately, does get blinked. Good that they got out trait, but their ciphers are slow and Journalist is on the ground, unfortunately, which means Opera has a lot of momentum here. This could end up being really difficult for the survivors if they can't get a really long rebound out of Lawyer here.
Ooh, it does look like the Opera automatically knows where the journalist and the professor are healing. We have two half healths, Gardner on Shack Cipher. Gardner or journalist may be forced to go for this rescue. Gardner pops the bubble and she decides she'll go for the rescue. Really curious to see how the Lawyer will kite from here.
Oh no, unfortunately, does run out of bubble there, which means that Gardner is just going to be taking a hit here, which is a shame because all four survivors are injured. And now Lawyer is going to be trying to make this window, does make it, and Opera getting a little bit awkward around that window. You loses some distance there, does however use the jump to get back to the shadow and close down this distance, and we'll have to see how long Lawyer can continue kiting with these resources.
Yeah, it does look like she might nip him here around the corner. Only time will tell. She misses the hit. Lawyer's able to abuse this one window right here, but ruins are not Opera's favorite place to kite.
Yeah, definitely. However, no pallets to work with here, which means it's only a matter of time for Lawyer. Unless maybe Gardner can come in for a body block here, but unfortunately their fifth cipher is only around 30% and it is going to run out. But no blink, Opera's forced to break another pallet here. Actually, if they can go for some body block plays here, and there's a speed boost too, I mean, they might actually be able to buy enough time for this last cipher to finish.
Yeah, there's the Gardner dismantling the chair, forcing the Lawyer to kite right there, buying as much time as they can. There's the teleport and the hit. But even with this chair dismantled, I don't know if this will be enough time for the Lawyer to save this kite.
Yeah, and I believe the other chair is dismantled as well. Actually, if Gardner plays this well here, the cipher's actually 80%. Gardner has to play this well here. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like she was able to break the chair. If she was able to force a hit, maybe, but it wasn't possible, it seems, and now the ciphers are going to be finished. However, this is a strong draw position, potentially. So as long as the survivors can get a draw out of this, they do put their hunter in a bit of a comfortable position going into the second half.
Yeah, it looks like they're definitely going to have to force the tie here. The Opera Singer knows the cipher progress is really high right now. She knows that the prime cipher is about to be popped. She's just waiting to waste abilities and waste time on this professor right now. But this game is looking like a very, very strong tie position for the survivors right now. Unfortunately, they were not able to pop prime cipher for lawyer. There goes the pop cipher, and she's going to continue to chase professor right now with his abilities being on cooldown and wasted at the moment.
Yeah, no abilities from Professor, and fortunately he doesn't have anywhere to go, which means Professor goes down very quickly here, which is a really big issue because Journalist is opening the gate right in front of the Opera here. In fact, this could actually just be a 3-kill for this Opera. Journalist most likely is not going to be able to finish that. And yeah, Opera's just going to teleport to the gate here. Journalist does have a rescue recording, so that's going to get the rescue off. Is Professor actually going to be able to kite long enough to buy some time? No!
Ooh, and that was just a pure example of how fast Opera Singer can be no matter the map. The down on the journalist, instantly downing the professor. The survivors are now in a one escape position. I really think the journalist probably should have ran towards Shack or found Dungeon instead of forcing that gate. Forcing that gate was a very detrimental move that causing them to get the one man in this situation.
Yeah, I mean you have to play at least a little bit more carefully, maybe staying near the hospital area, hopefully hoping that the hunter can't find you and maybe going for the dungeon there. I also really I really think that Gardner being there to support the lawyer wasn't ideal. I think if Lizard if the professor had been there instead, maybe we would have been able to use his item to buy some more time because we saw they only were missing 10% of the cipher. Just really unfortunate that everyone was injured and they didn't have more resources to body block, unfortunately. But that is what happens against an opera singer, and some miscommunications in the endgame did lead to that 3 elimination.
Yeah, unfortunately, those survivors decided to rush that gate right near the opera singer, not knowing if she had teleport or trump card. I would have ended up forcing dungeon or went and Shack and hopefully got a tie out of that situation. It was such a strong tie, but unfortunately, that late game with Opera's mobility was able to chop down that 3K.
Yeah, definitely really tough against an opera singer there. So, that happens, and now the hunter for Team FAE is under a little bit more pressure. They can still win this round if they get a 4 kill, so that's good for the hunter. However, getting that 4 kill is going to be a little bit challenging on a map like Sacred Heart. This was Team FAE's map pick. We were expecting maybe some more support or some kind of strategy for Sacred Heart, but that didn't pan out. And getting getting a 3 kill on your own map pick is a really big struggle. So now there's a ton of pressure on this hunter.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they'll do here. Unfortunately, tonight we're not seeing a whole lot of support from either teams. There's a seer, cheerleader, a cowboy, any sort of support. We're not really seeing anything besides an embalmer or psychologist, maybe. But the support is a little lacking on both teams, making these rebound kites a lot harder on these survivors when they run out of resources. There's nothing left for them to really use, and they can't really rely on their team support. Looks like these teams are only going for the Cypher Rush as much as they can.
Yeah, definitely. And Cypher Rush can be strong, but I would have liked to see maybe at least a second tide there. Usually 2 tides against an opera singer can be really strong if there's a fast down. Like we saw, no ciphers were popped after the first kite. So maybe double tide, maybe some more support with like a dancer or something. It would have helped a little bit, but unfortunately not enough support here. We'll see maybe if Team CCB does end up bringing the support here against this hunter, which we don't know what he has outside of Hermit, so maybe we'll actually see the Hellember in the second round.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see. I'd like to see a bit of more variety in these team comps. It looks like both teams are running very similar team comps with the due to lacks of support, but I really do want to see some support players come through and save these rebound kites. I want to see some life-threatening mojo going on, and I just want to see a life or death fight to the death on these last ciphers.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if we're gonna see something so dramatic, but I don't know. Maybe some intense harassment could be like what you're describing, like a prospector and an antiquarian, or maybe even a forward. God forbid. We haven't seen one of those in a long time. So some strong harassment could be really good, especially against a character like Hellember. And against most characters as well on this map, it can be really difficult to handle that harassment.
Yeah, and we're about to get into the game, but I do hope that
I
we
mean,
see a
like,
harasser or support picks here.
Yeah, I think some harassment or support picks would be strong here. Looks like, again, that Priestess is going to be banned here, and the Seer as well. Last time we did see the Merc get banned, but this Hunter does seem to want to prioritize banning the Seer instead here, which I think is pretty smart. And they actually end up banning the Hellember instead of the Hermit.
Yeah, Hermit definitely struggles a bit on this map, but I'm wondering if they could do Hermit and Insolence, that survivors would be in quite a pickle. I don't know about the Hell Ember ban. I know the Insolence and the Hell Ember buffs are both really good, but I feel like if these survivors went a good survivor comp with supports and good strong first kiters, they might have been able to deal with the Hell Ember here.
Yeah, maybe, but I do like the strategy the survivors are going for. Locking in the barmaid first means they're kind of asking the hunter to go hermit into a counter comp here. Because they do know that hermit is, this hunter's main, so they're gonna allow the hermit but lock in someone that really counters hermit in that barmaid. Who's really good at healing off the damage. So if the hunter wants to play hermit, they're gonna have a hard time here.
Yeah, even if the Hermit is chosen, we don't have a whole lot of strong decoders right now. It's looked like they're going for people who can survive the longest against Hermit, going with the Acrobat, the Barmaid, and the Mercenary. It looks like they're going for better first kiters over better decoding.
Yeah, I do like what we're seeing here. I think the last comp there with the lawyer and the gardener, they're not terrible, but they're definitely not an acrobat. And barmaid as well is a really strong hider. We did see the antiquarian ban, which means maybe this Fey hunter is respecting the chance of having to deal with a harasser. However, there are still options for harassment if they want to go with something like a prospector, who is really good, or a painter, actually. Painter is also a really good support that can make the hunter's life difficult.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be a Hermit. Most likely, they are going a support comp to survive as long as they can. They're going for some very strong kiters. The painter has two paintings that can buy a whole lot of time to transition. Acrobat's almost one of the hardest survivors to chase if played right. And Barmaid with her heal and speed boost is very detrimental to a Hermit. So I'm really curious to see if they'll pick the Hermit here.
Yeah, definitely. I really think they went for that barmaid pick to counter the hermit. Against a hermit, you want to have those healing survivors, like a psychologist and like a barmaid. And barmaid does get two heals, which can be very difficult to handle. So we did also see the prospector ban. So this hunter clearly worried about the harassment, and the painter not quite a harasser, but still really good support. If you can get your paintings off, two paintings buys a lot of time. And that can get a lot of distance as well, which we saw in the first round. Distance can help the hunter lose their chase. If that happens against the hermit, you're going to be in for a really rough time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they are going for a Hermit here with the Anti and the Prospector ban. Hermit's Chase is really weak until full presence, so I'm wondering if they're just wanting to avoid the harassment and get it out of here as soon as they can. Priestess is an auto ban and Seer. Oh, we're looking at a Gamekeeper here. So these survivors are going to be in a bit of a pickle. Gamekeeper is not the worst on this map, so I'm curious to see how the survivors are going to play against him.
Yeah, definitely unexpected here with the Gamekeeper pick. However, Gamekeeper is a much more consistent chase hunter. So definitely, I think this hunter is hoping to get a really fast down. Even against these strong supports and kiters, Gamekeeper can make up distance really quickly. He can get hooks through walls and through pallets, and hopefully he can get a fast down here, even against maybe someone like a painter or an acrobat.
Yeah, the bands now make sense with Acrobat and Painter and Mercenary and Barmaid as the team comp, but Prospector and Ansi can deal with a Gamekeeper very easily with the Seer being able to give extra support. So the Gamekeeper did make some smart bans here. Curious to see where they spawn, but I do know that Gamekeeper is almost able to nullify ruins with his traps.
Yeah, those traps can be really difficult to handle if Gamekeeper puts them in smart places. So I think whoever spawns at Ruins could have a tough time. We actually see no one is going to be spawning at Ruins. Potentially, maybe. Okay, no, it looks like Acrobat will be spawning Ruins and Painter at Shack here with the Barmaid in Hotel. So maybe Gamekeeper wants to go for that Painter to get rid of their biggest support out of the way.
Yeah, it definitely does look like they are going to force Painter to be first chase here. But those paintings, like I said, could buy so much time for him to transition into hospital or a better kiting area. I do think he probably won't stay in ruins for long because if the gamekeeper is smart, he's going to block off a lot of those windows and pallets that bug the crap out of him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many god windows and ruins that you don't want to have to deal with. At Shack, there's a god window. Once you get into Hospital 2, you've got Birdcage, right? You can block off the entrance, you can block out the window. So many places for Gamekeeper to put his traps. However, we do see two flywheels here on both the Acrobat and the Painter, so maybe potentially able to flywheel through the traps if they see them. So these survivors might actually be prepared for those traps.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this game will go. It could be in anybody's favor. Survivors have a strong lineup, and Gamekeeper is not too bad on this map. So I'm really curious to see how and what team is going to pull out the win on this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into this matchup now, this Hunter does need a 4-man elimination if he wants to win, and then a 3-man elimination will bring things to round 3. So the Hunter is looking for a win here. The Survivors only need a draw here to end things on the spot. So really intense stuff. Good luck to both sides.
Yeah. Good luck to both sides because this game does not look like it's going to be easy. It looks like the Gamekeeper is starting out strong, going to Shack, working his way towards the Painter. The Painter is watching where he's trapping. He is watching the God window. He decides to not take it and decides to take his bets and go straight into hospital. I'm afraid he might get hooked or hit here.
Yeah, the hook is coming off cooldown shortly, and Painter has to watch out here as he tries to unfortunately completely whiffs the hook there, not even going to get the distance. And Painter is going to start painting here, so already has the Hunter's face. If they can make it through this pallet safely, then this is going to be really difficult for this Gamekeeper. Oh wow, but good hook to get the hit.
Yeah, it does look he was very smart with that hook. He decided to hook and cut off the birdcage, and Painter ended up taking an early hit. He's avoiding trying to look at the painting, doesn't even recognize the painting, and continues moving past it. The barmaid is in the way, and he ends up looking at the painting trying to hit the barmaid.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Painter does already have that drink, and he's way too far away from the Gamekeeper for him to do anything, which means that is going to be the heal there. Painter is at full health, and now is getting a second painting up as well. This is looking really difficult for this Gamekeeper now with the full health Painter.
Yeah, ciphers are rushing up in progress 66, 47, and 60%. These ciphers are getting rushed with the painter back at full health. That gamekeeper is going to have to use more time, more abilities to get him back to an unhealthy state to where he can chair him. The painter both having painting and flywheel backup. This gamekeeper is really in a pickle with this strong early game.
Oh no, and it looks like unfortunately he's gotten completely lost here. He actually missed the way that the blood trails were going. Now he does see, for some reason the painter was actually waiting behind Shaq, or in front of Shaq rather. If he had maybe taken the opportunity to get more distance, that would have helped. But there is going to be the flywheel right through the trap. Another missed hook, unfortunately. And there are 3 ciphers done with this painter at full health with a painting.
Yeah, this painter is running the gamekeeper for his money right now. This painter is blocking off the walls, dodging the hooks, and almost mind reading what the hunter's going to do next. This painter is completely playing the gamekeeper to his hands right now. The gamekeeper is going to have to ump up his strategy. Oh, and we see another drink, but there goes the blink. Stops the drink, gets the painter down, and is able to finally get his first share at 2 ciphers.
Yeah, incredibly precise blink there to actually somehow snipe the painter through the barmaid. Really well played, but unfortunately, it's going to be interesting to see if it's actually enough. Does manage to chair on a statue, which means that's going to be one of those ciphers that was being decoded. However, they have enough time to start a new cipher, and I believe they do have a tide to work with Mercenary as well.
Yeah, we also have to take into account that Painter's long chair time is also really detrimental here. Even if they do decide to do an early rescue with Painter's chair time not being reset, they're able to just play off of his chair time right now.
Yeah, and that's going to be the rescue. No tide. However, Gamekeeper is going to have a little bit of trouble getting this painter down immediately. Painter might actually be holding onto this painting for an endgame kite, maybe looking to get dungeon. Really great dodge there from the painter as well. Painter has managed to dodge quite a few hooks here, and now this is actually a really long kite. Can Painter actually manage to kite until these ciphers are finished?
I don't know. It's anybody's game right now. It depends if the gamekeeper lands this hook. And he does get the distance. He does get the hit. Painter does go down. Still keeping on the painting. Oh, there goes the Cypher Pop. This painting still having one painting. Might be able to use it to get into hospital. Cancels the hook and goes back inside hospital. His gamekeeper is having a really hard time chasing this painter, running him for his money right now.
Yeah, really great job using that painting that he was saving throughout the match. And now it looks like Gamekeeper is going to be forced to commit to this painter. There's no trait. Unfortunately, Blink is still on cooldown and no real options other than to just chase the painter. Painter does have dungeon at Shack. However, it looks like might just be going for the gate. Misses the hook as well, and that might be enough for this painter to actually make it through the gate. This could be a forest gate.
Oh, Mercenary with the body block. They do end up getting a 4 out. That gamekeeper did end up having a really hard time. Painter decided to be a little goofy at the end and decided to get hit with the hook. Now he's getting chaired, but they still ended up getting a 3-man out when all they needed was a tie. They really did decide to do really great support here with the barmaid, and that Painter was just a monster on the kiting routes.
Yeah, Painter does decide to BM at the end, which does get him killed. And that could have an impact potentially, because in tie situations in terms of standings, points do matter. And those extra 2 points from the forest escape would have been pretty helpful. So a little bit questionable from the Painter, slight throw, but that is still going to be enough to win them the matchup. Really well played from CCB, winning in 2 rounds. Very well played to both factions.
Yeah, both factions played really well. That survivor team on the Sacred Hospital we just witnessed was almost just perfect. The support, the painting, and everything. That gamekeeper really had a lot of work cut out for them. They did have a few good traps and a few strong hooks, but it does look like their builds were ready for it with the flywheel.
Yeah, I think Painter just did a really good job of dodging the hooks. And we saw, Painter, once he gets into that hospital, he can use a painting, take a drink, and he gets the heal almost guaranteed. And we did see, unfortunately, I think Gamekeeper may have wasted a little too much time trying to get a hit on Barmaid before he looked at the painting, which just bought that much more time. So unfortunately, it ended up being really difficult for the Gamekeeper to catch back up to the Painter, and that ended up turning into a really long fight, with Painter still having his painting for endgame. Really well played from the survivors, great coordination, and unfortunately the Hunter just struggled a lot there.
Yeah, it seemed like the Hunter just struggled with the distance that Painter just continued to keep on him. Painter just kept that distance, and he did not let that distance get any shorter, constantly keeping a 5-foot radius between him and the Hunter at all times. That gamekeeper did get a chair, and he was able to try to pressure as well as he could, but that Painter's strong kite was very detrimental to this game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congrats to the Painter and Team CCB. And well played to Team FAE as well. I think we definitely saw some good things out of Team FAE, and hopefully we can continue to see good things out of them going forward into their future matchups. So congratulations to CCB, and hopefully, yeah, really looking forward to seeing matchups from both teams in the future.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how both of these teams will evolve. As CCB showed us, their survivors are just not here to play. They are here to run people for their money. That Hunter did a great job trying to do what they could, but unfortunately, those survivors were just so dang good on that map.
Yeah, definitely. Really well played to everyone. And I think that is going to be our final matchup for today. We'll have more matches for you next week as usual. So make sure to tune into those. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a joy to commentate, and well played to both teams here.
It was a pleasure to commentate for you. I'm Joshua. Catch me when you can, and I'll catch